Okay, so today we're going to look at naming and also measuring some angles. So, important thing first, this symbol right here stands for angle, and it kind of looks like an angle, so it's easy to think about that way. Just like boom, boom. Usually you're going to want to use 3 letters to name an angle. It's the most descriptive and easiest to figure out, and the most important part of this is that the vertex is the middle letter. So if you look at an angle, say this angle right here, the vertex is at point O, so however you name this, O is going to be the middle letter. And the other 2 letters will be the ones that make it up from the rays that come off of it. So you can either call this N-O-Q or you can call it N-O-R. Both the same, both mean the same thing. Now, the other way you might see it is just 1 letter for naming an angle. And this is a little vague, and the only reason for that is that it can only happen if there's 1 angle here. So like right here, you can't call this angle O because we have the angle here and we have the angle over here, which just makes everything a little too confusing. But if you look at angle S over in this corner down here, this you could just call angle S because there's no other angle except for that reflex angle, but we're not going to worry about that coming off of angle S. So let's name a few here. Let's start with that angle S. Let's find a different way to name that. So I'm going to use black, and I'll write the names in black to keep everything consistent. So we have angle S. Another way you could name that is NSO. So we got angle NSO. Or we could just keep going, and instead of O, we could look at NSQ or NSR. And all of those possibilities are acceptable. So let's look at, say, this angle right here. I'll use 2 arcs for that. And note that it's not necessarily 90 degrees because there's no box on it, so let's not assume anything. So to name this, Q would have to be the middle. So right off the bat, we have angle something, Q something. And the something, just follow the rays here. We have N and either O or NQ and S. So those are the 2 possibilities there, NQO or angle NQS. And we'll just do 1 more. Let's do this angle right here. So with this, obviously, O is going to be the center because that's the vertex, that's the middle angle, or the middle letter of the angle. And I suppose, all of these, there were 2 ways to do it. So for example, if you look at this could have been OSN instead of NSO. The order of these 2 outside letters don't matter. The key is that the vertex has to be in there. So there's technically 2 ways to name this. I'll only do 1. Let's call it angle SON, sun. So on the assignment you guys have, you're going to have to find basically the angle, and then you're going to use these little yellow dots and kind of drag them and click them so you know which angle you're looking at. So for this example right here, we're looking at angle BFG, like the Roald Dahl book. So we find B, here's B, and then F is right here, and then G is right here. So one thing I would suggest doing is just highlighting this and like showing where it is, like B, F, G. So the angle's right there, and what we're looking for, we basically want this angle right here. Okay? So in order to prove that you actually know that this is the angle right here, what you're going to do, you see these little yellow dots? You're going to click on that one and just drag it over to this one. Or you can click on that one and drag it over to this one, either way. And then what will happen is this will kind of fill in like a wedge, and this will all be colored in like that. Maybe not in green, I think it's probably in yellow. And then you just click submit, and then that's how you would say, hey, that's angle BFG, I know which one it is. Okay, so this part's going to be a little more difficult to walk it through, but I don't have a protractor I can project on here, so we'll try our best. When you're measuring with a protractor, what you want to do is put the center of it on the vertex. So like some of these things are kind of hard to describe, and I'll just make a quick drawing of one and show you what I mean. So with this, when I say the center, sometimes there's a hole, sometimes there's a dot, sometimes they just put like a little cross, little intersection like that. That's this part right here. So if you're measuring this angle right here, you would put that center right on O, right on the vertex. You got to make sure that lines up perfectly. And now you're going to line up the 0 line. So these things have 2 numbers. One side will say 0, One side will say 180. And what you want to do is just take this line and line it up with either this ray or this ray, the one that makes the most sense. In this case, I'd probably line it up down here. You can see like with this here, that there. And then the angle right here, this B part, will be sticking out like this. And what you want to do is just read off the number. And there'll be two numbers. So like for example, this one might be, if we have that angle B right there, this one could be 60 or 120. One of those two. And the easy way to figure it out is to just think to yourself, is this an acute angle or an obtuse angle? So this is clearly an acute angle, that's an obtuse angle. So for the acute angle, what you want to do, we know it's less than 90 degrees, so use the smaller number. So in this case, 60 degrees for this. And if you wanted to do this one, we'll pretend it's at the same mark, and like it goes like this, flipped it around, and it's either 60 or 120. Since this is obtuse, that would be 120 degrees because it's got to be bigger than 90.